Hey guys, welcome back to Werner Farms. So, another shop update. We have the 750 drill backed in here today. And mostly what needs to be done is just changing the drop hoses, or drop tubes, drop seed tubes, whatever you want to call them, to the openers. And that's essentially it, except for greasing this, and as you can see also, the vacuum's up there to sweep out any remainder rye that's left over in there. Actually left over from when I was drilling the remaining rye that we actually had for cover crop. So I'm halfway done with this. I actually have the front drop hoses all the way on, or already on, and all I have to do is just go ahead and take off the old ones in the back yet and put the new ones on. So I'll go ahead and explain later what hoses we were using in a little bit. I'll say it right now, but then I'll explain why we're using those in a little bit after I get this done. They're the Needham Ag drop hoses. I think I have, I think they're all over here yet. Yeah, they're over here in this box. So I'll explain why we're using these and not just the regular John Deere ones in a little bit after I get all these on then. So I'll check back with you guys in a little bit then.
This is gonna suck, especially on this side. Front wasn't too bad. Let's see what we can do. Here we go. More to go.
Okay guys, the grain drill's pretty much done. I went ahead and got all the other seed tubes on and went ahead and greased the whole thing and got the rye and whatever wheat was left in there from last year all vacuumed out of the drill. So it kind of sucked doing that, greasing the disc openers there, but normally what we do is to grease it is to back it over some grass or a part of the yard out over at my place there, over at our house, and just back it over there by the shed out in the grass and lay under it and grease it. But I figured, you know what, I'm already down there and might as well grab the grease gun and go ahead and just go through them all. So I went ahead and greased it all. So I'd say this thing is pretty well ready to go. So back to the seed tubes. I don't have the Needham Ag seed tubes laying here just because we don't have any extra ones. So I'll just kind of use one of these as an example. But this is the John Deere drop hose or seed tube or whatever you want to call it. I cut one open actually to help explain what I'm talking about. But these are probably the original seed tubes, my grandpa believes. So this drill is roughly 20 plus years old at least. And we bought this drill brand new, if you remember me talking about this in the farm tour part 2. But these seed tubes, probably only like one or two of them have been replaced, really. The one was actually mangled enough that this the end of the tube here was actually falling, like completely getting ripped off here for where the hose clamp was, so we actually had to adjust it last year and stretch the hose a little bit more to pinch it back here a little bit to hold it. But so that's kind of when we knew, we kind of need to get new seed tubes, and that's when we were doing a little bit looking, and we've been looking for a couple of years now just on either getting these same ones again, since they still make these, or getting the Needham Ag ones or some other brand. And when we were looking at the Needham Ag ones, I'll be sure to throw a picture up of what I'm talking about later on. But what they have is, if I can kind of spread this open one-handed here, there, you guys can kind of see it. On the original John Deere ones, they have ribs on the inside of it. You can kind of see it better by looking at the top of my index finger there. And you can kind of see inside there how rye and wheat seed is kind of wedged in there. Now, the disadvantage of that is that you're losing seed right there, and that could also cause buildup, along with, seed tubes being plugged or stuff like that. So what Needham Ag did was they added these, they essentially made their seed tubes on the inside smooth, but what they did was they added like these rubber flaps on the inside, these thin rubber flaps that kind of go over these grooves to act as almost like a slide for the seed to slide all the way down through. Now, when you brush your finger back the other way, up the seed tube, you'll feel the seed flaps flap the other way. But it also acts as a way to prevent mice from crawling their way up in through the seed boots, up through the seed tubes, and up into the grain drill itself. Because we've had this happen all the time with these. But with the Needham Ag ones, I think there's a label here somewhere. They actually have the, there's a couple down there actually, right there. To prevent mice or other rodents from going up in these. So that's kind of a cool feature from Needham Ag. Actually, for installing them, probably the biggest pain was probably stretching them out, and to spread them open enough just to slide them onto the actual drop tube themselves coming from each seed tank here. That was probably the hardest part, really. Otherwise, they're not too bad going on. We actually just continued with using just the one hose clamp down at the bottom and utilizing no hose clamps up at the top, just because, for the mere fact that once they're on, they are pretty much on. I mean, honestly, these things are not coming off at all. So unless one has some issues, then we'll put a hose clamp on it. But really, the old ones, we never needed to put a hose clamp on the top just because they gripped it. And these are a little bit tighter, also because they're smaller in diameter also. So hopefully we won't have any issues with that like we've never had in the past. So otherwise, those are the Needham Ag seed tubes. And that's pretty much all to say about those. I'll be sure to throw some pictures up of what I'm actually talking about. You guys will understand. Maybe I'll grab some footage from Needham Ag YouTube or whatever and throw in here also as an insert to kind of get a better representation of what I'm talking about. So otherwise, The grain drill is pretty much done unless Dad has some minor things to do on it. There's anything on the units that we need to do, really. These were all rebuilt, a year ago or 2 years ago. So, like I said before, though, grain drill is 20 years old. It's getting old. And if you guys watched the farm tour part 2, I've referenced about what would I get differently. To replace this drill, I'd want to get a 1990cc or CSC or whatever it is, air seeder, fill. That'd be really nice. Our neighbor actually has one, and he does both bags and pro boxes. Mostly pro boxes, though, just because it's easier on filling. But that's part of the reason why we have the platform on the back, because a lot of you guys were asking me last year in the videos about why we have the platform on the back, and that's for the fact of putting a skid of beans on there or a skid of wheat, because most of the time we are planting in bags. We rarely, it's kind of like 50-50 or 40-60 or 60-40 on bags versus pro boxes and stuff, because we do have our own seed tender that we can just go along here and fill it up with the auger then. But so that's why we had the platform out in the back. If I bought a 1990 CCS or CSC, I wouldn't put a platform on the back, I don't think, really. I wouldn't think. I would mostly just want to put it all in pro boxes and use our seed tender then. So, but yeah, I would think either 30, 35, or 40 foot 1990 air seeder. That'd be nice. I'd prefer 40 foot. That way it's equivalent to the planter then. It's the same width as planter then. That'd be nice. For row spacing, 7.5. I'd stay at 7.5. Maybe even go up to 10 at most. Our neighbor plants in 10-inch beans. The same one that has the 1990 CCS. Really, why we plant in 7.5-inch spacing, just for the fact of weed control, really. I mean, really, before we were thinking about going to 15-inch beans, but then we thought, especially with all the resistant weeds, why have more exposed ground for more weeds to essentially emerge? Now, I understand you guys with like 30-inch row beans, yeah, you guys get a better yield, but, on average, and, I've talked with guys in Illinois and Ohio and Michigan and Iowa, it's hard to break that 65 bushel, 55 bushel yield barrier right there. I mean, granted, we hit 80 bushel beans average, 75, 80 bushel bean average there on that one farm, but that was just because we actually got the beans in on April 17th last year. But not saying it was mostly just because of that. I have no idea. It could have been just adequate rainfall or something. I have no idea. We can't try it this year because it's already April 21st. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much it for the grain drill then. So, nothing else really to say besides it's pretty much done, and hopefully going to be planting here, I don't know, hopefully before May. That's always the goal, get it in start planting before May at least. We'll finish sometime in mid-May normally. This year, I have no idea. It's hard to say right now. We haven't even started, so I honestly don't know. Really, so back to the bean spacing then, really. 10-inch beans, though, that would probably be my ideal spacing. Just because, you can keep the weed pressure down still with cover, with shading, and I don't know, really, it's hard to, there's been a lot of studies, I guess you can say, on row spacing, on bean yield, and it's hard to determine which is the best row spacing because essentially, depending on what population you're planting, they're all the best, equally almost, So it's kind of hard to judge all the row spacings for beans just because, it's hard, to determine which has the better yield. Now, granted, like I said, back to population, that's the biggest factor. So, now granted, on beans, we're planting anywhere from 165 to, I think almost up at the highest we've planted, I think was maybe 210,000. But yeah, I mean, that's for 7.5-inch spacing, as you work your way wider in spacing, your population goes down and you're using less beans per acre then. So that's another huge thing, with 10-inch spacing, we could reduce seed input then, and, that's what another big factor was when we were looking at 15-inch row spacing, but then when the weed resistant seed came up again, with water hemp in our area, and possibly some Palmer Amaranth. Actually, we saw some on the river farm once, and we immediately got a trash bag, got it, and completely disposed of it. Otherwise, I've only seen one Palmer Amaranth plant around here. That was it. But mostly just water hemp, and that's mostly on the river farm, and mostly just water hemp and mare's tail. God, mare's tail, that's a nightmare. But yeah, so really, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you guys plant, like spacing wise, and what your thoughts are. I mean, I know I'm going to start a huge firestorm on row spacing and stuff like that. That's like, John Deere versus Case IH, or Pioneer versus Monsanto and DeKalb and Asgrow and Wiffles and all of them. That's a huge controversy I'm opening up right now, but let me know down in the comments down below, though, just like what your guys' row spacing is and what you guys see on yield wise. Like I said, average yield on our farms like 50 to 55 bushel on beans. So some fields, like I was saying, though, 80 bushel is it's there. Just how do we get there? That's the key element. Like last year we planted those beans early, and we averaged close to 80, 75, 80. So is that the key? I don't know. We're going to work on possibly using some liquid potash this year in the pivots. Also doing some foliar applications again this year on the beans like we did last year. Otherwise, that's pretty much it on the beans, really. I don't know too much else then, really, except hopefully this weather stays nice, and hopefully we'll be able to have a halfway decent spring the rest of this year. So I guess thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe down below. Make sure you guys comment. I really appreciate the comments. I like reading through them. So I guess I'll catch you guys in the next video then.